Chapter 10 of the Riddle of the Sands. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Gesine. The Riddle of the Sands by Erskine Childers. Chapter 10 His Chance. "I say, Davies," I said, "how long do you think this trip will last? I've only got a month's leave." We were standing at slanting desks in the Kiel post office, Davies scratching diligently at his letter card, and I staring feebly at mine. "By Jove," said Davies, with a start of dismay, "that's only 3 weeks more. I never thought of that. You couldn't manage to get an extension, could you?" "I can write to the chief," I admitted, "but where's the answer to come to? We're better without an address, I suppose." "There's Cuxhaven," reflected Davies, "but that's too near, and but we don't want to be tied down to a landing anywhere. I tell you what, say Post Office Norderney, just your name, not the yacht's. We may get there and be able to call for letters." The casual character of our adventure never struck me more strongly than then. "Is that what you're doing?" I asked. "Oh, I shan't be having important letters like you." "But what are you saying?" "Oh, just that we're having a splendid cruise and are on our way home." The notion tickled me, and I said the same in my home letter, adding that we were looking for a friend of Davies's who would be able to show us some sport. I wrote a line, too, to my chief, unaware of the gravity of the step I was taking, saying it was possible that I might have to apply for a longer leave, as I had important business to transact in Germany, and asking him kindly to write to the same address. Then we shouldered our parcels and resumed our business. 2 full dinghy loads of stores we ferried to the Dulcibella, chief among which were 2 immense cans of petroleum, constituting our reserve of heat and light, and a sack of flour. There were spare ropes and blocks, too, German charts of excellent quality, cigars and many weird brands of sausage and tinned meats, besides a miscellany of oddments, some of which only served in the end to slake my companion's craving for jettison. Clothes were my own chief care, for, freely as I had purged it at Flensburg, my wardrobe was still very unsuitable, and I had already irretrievably damaged 2 faultless pairs of white flannels. "We shall be able to throw them overboard," said Davies hopefully. So I bought a great pair of sea boots of the country, felt-lined and wooden-soled, and both of us got a number of rough woolen garments, as worn by the local fishermen, breeches, jerseys, helmets, gloves, all of a colour chosen to harmonise with paraffin stains and anchor mud. The same evening we were taking our last look at the Baltic, sailing past warships and groups of idle yachts battened down for their winter's sleep, while the noble shores of the fjord, with its villas embowered in copper foliage, grew dark and dim above us. We rounded the last headland, steered for a galaxy of coloured lights, tumbled down our sails and came to under the colossal gates of the Holtenau lock. That these would open to such an infinitesimal suppliant seemed inconceivable. But open they did, with ponderous majesty, and our tiny hull was lost in the womb of a lock designed to float the largest battleships. I thought of boaters on a hot August Sunday, and wondered if I really was the peevish dandy who had jostled and sweltered there with the noisy Cockney throng a month ago. There was a blaze of electricity overhead, but utter silence till a solitary cloaked figure hailed us and called for the captain. Davies ran up a ladder, disappeared with the cloaked figure, and returned, crumpling a paper into his pocket. It lies before me now, and sets forth, under the stamp of the Königliches Zollamt, that, in consideration of the sum of 10 marks for dues and 4 for tonnage, an imperial tug would tow the vessel Dulcibella, Master A. H. Davies, through the Kaiser Wilhelm Canal from Holtenau to Brunsbüttel. Magnificent condescension! I blush when I look at this yellow document and remember the stately courtesy of the great lock gates. for the sleepy officials of the Königliches Zollamt little knew what an insidious little viper they were admitting into the imperial bosom at the light toll of 14 shillings. "Seems cheap," said Davis, joining me, "doesn't it? They've a regular tariff on tonnage, same for yachts as for liners. We start at 4 tomorrow, with a lot of other boats. I wonder if Bartels is here." The same silence reigned, but invisible forces were at work. The inner gates opened and we prized ourselves through into a capacious basin, where lay moored side by side a flotilla of sailing vessels of various sizes. Having made fast alongside a vacant space of quay, we had our dinner, and then strolled out with cigars to look for the Johannes. We found her wedged among a stack of galliots, and her skipper sitting primly below before a blazing stove, reading his Bible through spectacles. He produced a bottle of schnapps and some very small and hard pears, while Davis twitted him mercilessly about his false predictions. "The sky was not good," was all he said, beaming indulgently at his incorrigible young friend. Before parting for the night, it was arranged that next morning we should lash alongside the Johannes when the flotilla was marshalled for the tow through the canal. "Karl shall steer for us both," he said, "and we will stay in the warm cabin." The scheme was carried out, not without much confusion and loss of paint, in the small hours of a dark and drizzling morning. Boisterous little tugs sorted us into parties, and half lost under the massive bulwarks of the Johannes, we were carried off into a black inane. If any doubt remained as to the significance of our change of cruising grounds, dawn dispelled it. View there was none from the deck of the Dulcibella. It was only by standing on the main boom that you could see over the embankments to the vast plain of Holstein, grey and monotonous under a pall of mist. The soft scenery of the Schleswig coast was a baseless dream of the past, and a cold penetrating rain added the last touch of dramatic completeness to the staging of the new act. For 2 days we travelled slowly up the mighty waterway that is the strategic link between the two seas of Germany. Broad and straight, massively embanked, lit by electricity at night till it is lighter than many a great London street, traversed by great war vessels, rich merchantmen, and humble coasters alike, it is a symbol of the new and mighty force which, controlled by the genius of statesmen and engineers, is thrusting the empire irresistibly forward to the goal of maritime greatness. "Isn't it splendid?" said Davis. "He's a fine fellow, that emperor." Karl was the shock-headed, stout-limbed boy of about 16, who constituted the whole crew of the Johannes, and was as dirty as his master was clean. I felt a certain envious reverence for his unprepossessing youth, seeing in him a much more efficient counterpart of myself; but how he and his little master ever managed to work their ungainly vessel was a miracle I never understood. Phlegmatically impervious to rain and cold, he steered the Johannes down the long grey reaches in the wake of the tug, while we and Bartels held snug gatherings down below, sometimes in his cabin, sometimes in ours. The heating arrangements of the latter began to be a subject of serious concern. We finally did the only logical thing, and brought the kitchen range into the parlour, fixing the Rippingille stove to the forward end of the cabin table, where it could warm as well as cook for us. As an ornament it was monstrous, and the taint of oil which it introduced was a disgusting drawback; but, after all, the great thing, as Davis said, is to be comfortable, and after that to be clean. Davis held long consultations with Bartels, who was thoroughly at home in the navigation of the sands we were bound for, his own boat being a type of the very craft which ply in them. I shall not forget the moment when it first dawned on him that his young friend's curiosity was practical, for he had thought that our goal was his own beloved Hamburg, queen of cities, a place to see and die. "It is too late," he wailed. "You do not know the Nordsee as I do." "Oh, nonsense, Bartels, it's quite safe." "Safe? And have I not found you fast on Hohenhörn, in a storm, with your rudder broken? God was good to you then, my son." "Yes, but it wasn't my Davies checked himself.